During this Virgo lunar eclipse, the masculine energy is being urged to hold clear boundaries without shutting down vulnerability, and the feminine energy is being confronted with her deep longing for connection, and she is invited to feel this without shaming herself or losing her integrity. The collective field is pushing polarity toward coherence, where boundary and heart can stabilize within the same system. It's not a new beginning, it's a test of what can truly hold. Hi, I'm Hanneke. Welcome to this video on the lunar eclipse. Now, this lunar eclipse happens on March the 3rd, and it closes the eclipse season that began on February 17th with the solar eclipse in Aquarius. Eclipse seasons happen twice a year, but this one is landing inside a much bigger transition. So let's recap what has been unfolding. The solar eclipse happened at the final degree of Aquarius with a real end of cycle pressure. In one of my previous videos, I shared how that moment emphasized sovereignty. The masculine energy was pushed into self-leadership instead of performance, and the feminine began to feel the space and detachment that sovereignty naturally creates. And right after that, the sun moved into Pisces and the emotional field opened. Sensitivity increased, residue surfaced, and what wasn't integrated inside the new structure started coming up. The feminine energy felt that vulnerability first, while the masculine energy was still recalibrating its spine. And then on February 20th, Saturn conjuncted Neptune in Aries. Saturn and Neptune meet roughly every 36-37 years. So this is the start of a long collective cycle where ideals meet reality and projection either becomes embodied or it dissolves. This is not routine monthly astrology. This is structural, cyclical, generational timing converging. So this lunar eclipse is not just a full moon moment. It is the emotional stabilization point of a larger reorganization. It shows where the new structure holds, where it doesn't, and where sovereignty is truly embodied versus where polarity is still split internally. Now about this lunar eclipse. Unlike a solar eclipse, which plants a seed, a lunar eclipse reveals emotional polarity. It brings something to culmination. It exposes what cannot stay hidden anymore. If the solar eclipse initiated structural sovereignty, then the lunar eclipse now shows us where emotional integration is required inside that new structure. And this specific eclipse falls on the Virgo-Pisces axis. Pisces represents disillusion, emotional openness, longing, unity, and Virgo represents discernment, boundaries, integration into reality. It's not about choosing one over the other. It's not about choosing Pisces or unity or emotional openness over the discernment and the boundaries of Virgo. This is about learning to balance surrender and discernment, balancing emotional openness with structural integrity, balancing unity and boundaries. So what does that mean for the masculine and feminine energy? As always, this energy can play out in relationships, but fundamentally, this is about internal coherence. So whatever I mention about the masculine energy and the feminine energy, you can see it happen in your relationships, and they can be a mirror, but they are showing you what is happening on the inside. So what's happening for the masculine energy? He's being pressured around structure and integrity. Virgo demands discernment. It asks what is healthy, what is sustainable, what aligns with reality, and an immature masculine expression under this eclipse might show up as overcorrection, harsh boundaries, withdrawal as protection, installing shame to prevent repetition, controlling vulnerability, and he might say, well, if I close, I stay safe. But this is structure without heart. It reacts to emotional openness by tightening up. And the feminine energy is being activated around emotional openness and longing. Because Pisces opens, it dissolves, it intensifies feeling. And the immature feminine expression under this eclipse might show up as an all or nothing surrender. You can feel this huge pressure that you want to surrender and open yourself completely, with the risk of losing your center during this process, during this longing. She might feel shame around needing someone, needing the divine counterpart, needing anything outside of her. She might interpret distance as abandonment, and she might feel, if I close myself, then I betray myself, then I won't be true to what I feel on the inside. But this is openness without containment, and it reacts to structure as rejection. So what is this eclipse actually pressuring? It's exposing where the masculine protects through being hard, being tough, and it's exposing where the feminine gives herself up through fusion. And shame sits in between them. They can't reach each other. This can show up as an almost existential friction in the body. There's this sense of this deep longing to open fully, a deep longing to express the love and desire that runs through you. But you feel, if I fully open, I will lose control or I will get hurt. But then if I close myself off from this desire, I betray my own truth. And this can really feel like a sort of emotional overdrive, these strong waves of love, but also grief and anger and moments of clarity, and they all move quickly. One moment feeling maybe empowered and sovereign, and the next moment you feel pulled back into old pain that you thought, haven't I processed this long ago? And this is not because you are regressing, but it is because your system is really trying to stabilize this new configuration. And for the feminine energy, this can feel like a deep love that refuses to disappear, and it's accompanied by shame. And it's possible that questions arise like, why can't I just let this go? Am I weak for still caring? Am I disrespecting myself if I still feel this? And for the masculine energy, it can feel like this strong urge to protect dignity at all costs, to draw a line and to say this dynamic cannot continue. But in an immature expression, that boundary can really harden into a self-sabotage, self-punishment, and it can even feel like this deep shame to prevent vulnerability. This really is an old coping mechanism that is installed in a lot of us to protect ourselves from possible rejection. So it's self-rejection. You reject yourself before someone else can do it. But it's an immature expression of the masculine energy. But it's really important to see that the real tension here is not between love and boundaries. The real tension, it's not between the masculine and the feminine, even though it feels like that, but the real tension is between 0% and 100%. The tension is between all open or all closed. And when capacity is not yet stabilized, everything feels extreme. And the shift really happens when the internal butt dissolves. Love does not have to disappear, and boundaries, they don't have to harden. You can feel emotions and hold your spine at the same time. And when that happens, the nervous system regulates. And that doesn't happen because the situation changed or because the future became clear. It's because the internal tension stops. So instead of the feminine energy trying to convince the masculine energy, or the masculine energy trying to convince the feminine energy, or trying to win, this is not about winning. This is about finding that third position that is the observer of the internal polarity. That third position sees it all, rejects nothing, and it asks of the masculine energy to allow the feminine to feel, and it asks the feminine energy to allow the masculine to hold boundaries. We often think on this journey that we have to make a decision and that we have to act upon this decision. If someone crosses our boundaries, then we cut them off, we close our heart, we move along, or we forgive them and we open ourselves up again. But maybe we don't respect our own boundaries in this way. But this eclipse, it's not really about external events or external actions. It's really asking us where openness and boundaries can coexist within the same system. And it's showing us where this new structure is internally coherent and where it isn't. This is an invitation to embody your truth rather than express external boundaries. If you'd like to go deeper into this theme of boundaries, I created a YouTube video a couple of days ago that really goes deep into what happens when you come to that part of your journey where you start to embody your truth and you start to live from your boundaries, and how that affects your relationships and the dynamic with your divine counterpart. The Substack version of that video goes even deeper into the underlying energetics and also the collapse of the push-pull dynamic when you start living from truth. So if you're interested in that, I will put the link up and you can go and watch that one. Now, there are two other movements that are really intensifying this period. The first one is Mercury retrograde. Mercury turned retrograde in Pisces on February 26th, and it will remain retrograde until March 20th. And when Mercury goes retrograde, our minds review and all thoughts resurface. And yeah, in Pisces, that review is emotional. So if old stories come up and you keep revising and reliving, just know that this is Mercury and you don't have to go into that story again. At the same time, Mars has been very active. Mars has been moving through Aquarius, and this increased independence and also urgency. When it's squared with Uranus on February 27th, that pressure really peaked. There were sudden impulses, reactions, nervous system electricity. So what you may be feeling is these two opposite movements at once. One part is maybe still reviewing the past, and another part wants immediate change now. It's saying go, go, go. I don't know if you've experienced that the past month, but I definitely have. I felt this huge drive to create and do and build. Now, as I'm recording this on March the 2nd, Mars is moving into Pisces. And so this activation, it will soften. It will become more about integration. So if this period is feeling, if you're getting a lot of oscillations and it's mentally loud and you feel physically activated, that really fits the timing. But if you can really accept the invitation of this lunar eclipse, and if you can shift that tension between love and boundaries, then all of that energy that was caught in those oscillations, it will become available. Then the masculine and feminine will stop correcting each other, and longing doesn't need to be defended anymore, and dignity doesn't need to harden anymore. And it's from there that clarity will emerge. It's what happened for me personally. The more that I integrated my inner polarity, the more energy that became available to build my life, to really choose what life I want to build instead of reacting what comes my way. So the masculine in me is really structuring the vision of my feminine energy. There is more trust, there is mutual support, and that is what sacred union looks like in real time, when your inner structure supports your inner truth. And over the past weeks, I've been building from that place. I've been building a sacred union course, which will be launched on March 21st. It's a 3-month sacred union journey through 11 integration keys, where we work on stabilizing inner polarity, on emotional maturity, on embodying truth. It's not about changing a connection on the outside or fixing someone else's behavior. It's really about building an inner structure so that sacred union can become sustainable within you. If this resonates with you and you feel ready to commit to that level of integration, you're very welcome to join. Enrollment is open now, so I'll put the link up, and I really, really would love to welcome you there. So I'd love to hear what you are experiencing in this eclipse season. Are you experiencing this fight between heart and boundaries within yourself? Do you feel the mind is really loud and that emotions can surface in waves? Or is it something completely else? Like always, I really love to read all of your comments. And for now, I will leave you, and I'm sending you a lot of love. Bye.